Good evening, morning, or afternoon, depending on where you're at in the world, and welcome once again to another Alliance update. Well, first of all, guys, thank you so much for being patient. I know I missed going live this Saturday evening, but that was because I was at the Rise of the Guardians conference, which went really well. For those that attended, thank you so much. I appreciate you being there in person, and it was an honor meeting you as well. And before I get started, I do want to extend gratitude to each and every single one of you for being here. I also want to welcome all my new subscribers. And by the way, thanks to you guys, I finally reached 100,000 subscribers. So again, without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do all this. So, first and foremost, the gratitude. And I believe that the reason why I have this platform is because of the Galactic Jedis. Without the Galactic Jedis, I wouldn't have a platform. So thank each and every single one of you guys. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. So, as you guys know, Saturday, the first release of classified information. Now, it has been brought to my attention by Commander Valiant Thor that this is going to be done in layers until the big announcement, which is going to happen this summer of 2026. They do have a deadline by no later than November 2026, or else, of course, the Galactics will, you could say, implement the disclosure. So as of now, the Pentagon is set to release UFO files every few weeks until all the classified information is out. And so by the summer of 2026, President Trump is scheduled to make a worldwide announcement about the Galactic Alliance. And this would also include the revelations of the non-human and human alliances, including the Greada Treaty, and of course, all of the advanced technologies that are private sector inherited by the non-terrestrials since the 1950s. So that announcement is going to be a global wide announcement on every station, okay? No, before I give you guys the full scope of what's happening right now and what we are to expect and how to prepare, I first want to remind you guys that I only have a few spots left in my upcoming courses beginning on the 16th and 17th of this month, which is this coming Saturday and Sunday. I believe 3.0 is fully booked, and I believe Ascension 2.0 is booked. So the only ones that are still available is Ascension Basics and my groundbreaking class, our Cosmic Origin, where I break down the entire cosmic infrastructure, revealing the different types of advanced space age civilizations, introducing or restoring, of course, cosmic history, all of that within that class, going back to 900 billion years ago. And most importantly, one of the reasons why I love doing these interactive online courses is that I get to meet a lot of the new people. And this is where you get to tell me about yourself, your story, when you had your initial awakening, and what led to you being who you are today, of course. So with that having been said, I think I could get right into it. Oh, no, one last thing. Almost forgot. During these times of planetary purging, I do strongly believe in cleansing your body. So I know that some of you guys can't afford this, but for those that can, this is the holistic way of course, cleansing your body from every metal and radiation. And when there are no metals or radiation in your body, the parasites and the worms cannot exist either. So it is a full body detox. The link is always in the description. And of course, at the end of the presentation and Q&A, I will put the link also in the comments and pin it for those that want to just have easy access to the link. However, there are other non-expensive ways of purging your body from the parasites and worms, of course. There are many products out there that you guys could take that are less expensive, like cilantro juice, but you have to drink a lot of cilantro juice to get the equivalent of just 2 pills or 1 pill. So in either case, guys, as a quick reminder, don't forget that I strongly believe in the cleansing protocol. Begin detoxing your body inexpensively or otherwise, but just begin that process. It's very crucial. All right. With that having been said, I think I'm going to get right into it. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to. I know I said earlier about reaching 100 subscribers, and I know other podcasters are like, let's celebrate. Who knows? I might do a special live about my journey since when I first came out into the limelight in 2022 to now as a presentation, but not today. Today, I have a lot of valuable information to share regarding what's going to be happening in the next few weeks. And this is great news. Okay, so the Pentagon is scheduled to release UFO files, or rather the rollout of UFO files or waves of them every single week until all the classified information is out. And so by sometime this summer, and I strongly believe it's July, Valiant Thor wouldn't give me the month, but he said this summer, President Trump is scheduled to make a worldwide announcement about the Galactic Alliance. And of course, that would include all the revelations regarding the non-human and human alliances and treatises that were signed, including the Grayada Treaty and all of the advanced technologies that have been inherited by the non-terrestrials since the 1950s. Well, this briefing comes from the Alliance Clarification Cosmic Clearance Level 7, Earth Alliance, Galactic Alliance Joint Briefing. Executive Overview. So according to current Alliance intelligences and multiple synchronized contact transmissions, humanity has now entered the final phase of the disclosure window, which is what they call the critical period during which Earth's governments are being given the opportunity to voluntarily reveal the existence of non-terrestrial intelligence, advanced technologies, and covert historical operations that have been kept hidden from the public for generations. So everything has to come out, okay? Alliance is currently monitoring divisions, reporting an increasing pressure from different factions that are associated with the Galactic Alliance regarding continued delays in disclosure operations. As I mentioned earlier, they do have a deadline. Internal sources have therefore indicated that several world governments, military coalitions, intelligence agencies, and even private aerospace sectors have already been informed that the current timeline can no longer sustain the secrecy any longer. Well, the message delivered to the Earth leadership has reportedly been very direct, and that is that humanity must prepare for first contact. The age of concealment has ended, per the Galactic Alliance. So, the disclosure deadline. I know I left a lot of you in suspense when I mentioned last time that they were given a deadline, or else. Let me explain what would happen, or else. So, Alliance analysts believe that a controlled disclosure process was originally designed to occur gradually over the multiple years in order to avoid mass panic, and I've talked about this in prior presentations, also to avoid what? Institutional collapse and global destabilization. However, recent timeline acceleration events, along with the rising planetary instability, the solar energetic anomalies, and increasing civilian awareness have reportedly compressed the original disclosure timeline into a matter of months. That's fascinating, okay? According to Commander Valiant Thor, if world governments continue refusing the releasing of classified information concerning non-terrestrial civilizations, advanced technologies, and extraterrestrial contact programs, the Galactic Alliance will therefore have to initiate direct planetary exposure measures. These actions are believed to be designed as catalytic interventions intending to bypass institutional obstruction and force humanity into a new era of awareness. Well, in the event that the world governments failed to fully disclose all of the classified information on a mass scale, the Galactic Alliance will initiate their intervention in certain phases. So, phase one is what they call the mass global sightings. So, Alliance probability models suggest that the first escalation would involve synchronized mass sightings across multiple continents simultaneously. And unlike isolated UFO encounters of previous decades, these appearances would occur openly over major cities throughout North America, Asia, Europe, South America, Africa, the Middle East, and the oceanic regions as well. The objective would be unmistakable or unmistakably global visibility, where they can't deny it anymore. Alliance strategists believe that these sightings would actually shatter the remaining psychological barriers surrounding extraterrestrial reality and permanently end the ability of governments or media institutions to suppress the phenomena. Recovered projections indicate that these craft would likely avoid hostile engagement while demonstrating impossible maneuverability, advanced energy systems, and controlled atmospheric operations. Well, according to Commander Valiant Thor, he did mention that prior to these mass sightings, that all world military weapons will be destabilized. So it's not like they could do anything anyways. So the intention is here, perp phase one. The intention would be undeniable presence worldwide. Now, phase two, in the event that the Galactics have to execute, right, some sort of intervention, phase two would be Galactic Alliance intervention in the event that governments continue to suppress the classified information. After following mass sightings, Alliance intelligence suggests a second phase involving limited intervention operations by advanced extraterrestrial coalitions associated with the Galactic Alliance. Now, according to this prediction, phase two, this would include the remote deactivation of all systems worldwide, interruptions of strategic launch capabilities, electromagnetic neutralization of military escalation systems, as well as temporary disruption of classified orbital defense grids. Alliance insiders believe that this operation would serve as a demonstration that humanity can no longer maintain planetary systems capable of global extinction. Now, several sources believe that the possibility of a synchronized telepathic broadcast transmitted directly into human consciousness across the planet will also be part of phase two. And so this event has been referred to within some alliance circles as the planetary signal. Descriptions suggest individuals worldwide could simultaneously experience emotional resonance with certain ETs, symbiotic visions, especially as some people begin to undergo multidimensional integration with their galactic avatar. It's almost like phase two also implies some sort of mergence between star seeds and their galactic avatar, right? Some sort of integration. I would call that first waivers of ascension. Also included in phase two is messages of peace and unity, not only by taking over the airwaves of television sets, but also, of course, through telepathic communication with certain people on the planet. And I believe those are starseeds. Also, part of phase two is awareness of humanity's interconnectedness. All of a sudden, there is going to be a sense of unity consciousness worldwide taking place. And this is all part of phase two, as well as confirmation that humanity was never alone. And so Alliance analysts acknowledge that in this event, that would permanently alter human civilization. Now, phase three would be the breakdown nation. The breakaway nation. I'm sorry, the breakaway nation. Sorry, guys, I've been working on this report all day for about 8 hours today. I am exhausted. All right, the breakaway nation, which is that recent intelligence projections suggest that eventually a smaller sovereign nation may become the first government on Earth to openly acknowledge formal contact with non-terrestrial civilizations. This nation would reportedly reject pressure from the larger geopolitical powers and publicly announce cooperative relationship with Galactic Alliance. And that the possible outcomes of this phase 3 would include public diplomatic contact, shared technological demonstrations, open communication channels, and of course, joint humanitarian projects. And I know some of you guys are already being contacted for this, for phase 3, right? In the event that the Galactics have to execute some sort of a direct intervention, right? If the governments of this world fail to comply by a deadline. So, in addition to phase 3 would be the disclosure of suppressed historical records related to MJ-12, right? Private military sectors, aerospace companies that were in cahoots with these breakaway groups of the secret space program. That's all part of phase 3. So, Alliance is forecasting these models that indicate that this movement would create irreversible geopolitical shockwaves throughout the entire planet. Therefore, the secrecy structure would begin collapsing from the outside inward if the Galactics were to intervene. Phase 3. Now, phase 4 is what the Galactics call the releasing of the healing technology event, which is what many of us have been waiting for. So, including in phase 4, again, in the event that the governments fail to do the disclosure, the Galactics will, according to Alliance transmissions, which is probably the most transformative phase described within all of the 4 phases, is the deployment of advanced healing modalities. Now, what does this entail? Well, all of this. The first thing that they're going to be releasing is the holographic medical pod, known by various names. According to high-level Alliance clearance, a single advanced healing chamber could be openly demonstrated before the world, potentially curing a terminally ill patient live before a global audience. Alliance intelligence also suggests that such an event would immediately destabilize multiple existing systems simultaneously, including the pharmaceutical monopolies. You guys know what I mean, starts with PHA. Insurance industries worldwide would collapse when this is demonstrated. And of course, medical dependency structures, political secrecy surrounding all of the advanced technology. More importantly, part of phase 4, in the event that our world governments fail to comply, would be to ignite massive public demand of these technologies. At that point, guys, humanity would realize that these technologies capable of enduring suffering or ending all suffering may have existed in secret for decades and would therefore want their public release. So the psychological impact would be unprecedented. Now, phase 5, in the event that the governments fail to comply with the Galactic Alliance, is what they call the global awakening. So, in this phase, Alliance projections indicate that following undeniable contact and healing demonstrations, mass civilian movements would rapidly emerge worldwide. Populations across nations would begin demanding full disclosure, the releasing of hidden technologies, access to advanced medical systems, transparency regarding extraterrestrial contact, and most importantly, entry into larger interstellar alliances. And with that, of course, comes what? The full dismantling of the corrupt power structures. And by the way, as of now, the alliance has contained the cabal at 95%. In other words, the cabal is only hanging by a thread, which is the 5%. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit. So, part of phase 5, in the event that the world governments fail to comply with the disclosure protocol, is mass civil disobedience operations that would spread across multiple countries simultaneously. And of course, the narrative control systems sustaining the old world order would begin collapsing faster than governments could contain them. And so all of this would lead to the fall of the old system. As of now, the United States and Western institutional powers would, of course, have to comply, or else eventually be forced into full disclosure, not through voluntarily admission, but through overwhelming public pressure and irreversible global events, if phase 5 were to be implemented. Now, alliance analysts have described this as the domino phase, the 5 different phases, which is once enough nations acknowledge contact and enough civilians demand the truth, the old secrecy architecture becomes unsustainable. The centralized global order that was built on information control, technological suppression, and geopolitical manipulation would begin fracturing overnight. And so this leads all to what I've been talking about, this new global structure that will completely cause the decentralization of all infrastructures into a fully implemented federated region. So, along with being forced to disclose the truth worldwide, within Alliance archives, there is also a new formation of a planetary coordination system centered around sovereign cooperation rather than centralized domination. One projected model references a future international council emerging in Sedona first, Mount Shasta, Boulder, Colorado, Asheville, North Carolina, Burlington, Vermont, and of course, Santa Fe, New Mexico, and last but not least, Boise, Idaho, to begin a reorganized global structure intended to replace the fallen institutions of the old era with the releasing of advanced technologies, as well as allowing for a safe interaction between humans and positive ETs. These are what I've been referring to as the 7 interplanetary safe zones. They're going to be what we call interplanetary sanctuary cities. I did a whole report on that about a month ago, if you guys recall. So, Alliance analysts caution that these projections remain speculative timeline possibilities rather than fixed certainties, right? We're dealing with probabilities. However, nearly all recovered models point towards the same conclusion, and that is that the Earth is being restructured to eventually enter the interstellar community. So no matter which outcome or how it all ends up, it's all going to eventually lead to Earth becoming part of the interstellar community, which is great. So what that means is that humanity is approaching first contact civilization status. Alliance Command concludes that humanity, as of now, is standing at the edge of the greatest transformation, right? Which is going to be what? Precipitated by the greatest revelation in recorded history. So the battle now unfolding is no longer about politics, Galactic Jedis, nor is it about economics. It is about existential. It's about existentiality, okay? And it concerns humanity's future in the cosmos, right? We can no longer be using the same old, outdated systems of energy anymore. And I've already mentioned that before. And this also includes the releasing of all suppressed knowledge, the liberation of advanced technologies, and of course, the evolution of human consciousness, which will mark the end of Earth being an isolated quarantine planet. Therefore, humanity cannot remain hidden forever anymore. The final variable, according to this transmission, is that humanity chooses to is how humanity chooses to respond when all of this disclosure takes place. And this is the reason why a lot of religious leaders have been prepared in the last week. All right? Because when all of this is released, there is also the factor of how are people going to respond to all of this. That's going to change everything. All right, second part of the briefing that I got from Commander Valiant Thor is what they call the Cosmic Clearance Complete analysis. But it is also important to state that the success of the alliance as of now is 95% in the total takedown of what remains of the cabal infrastructure. However, this dismantling of the power over the cabal did not happen overnight. It unfolded quietly through the years of strategic operations, intelligence gathering, technological recovery, and the dismantling of deeply rooted systems of manipulation, not to mention the clearance of entire underground facilities, subterranean cities, and of course, networks. So, while the mainstream media focused on surface level conflicts, many larger operations were taking place behind the scenes to prevent humanity from descending into chaos during a period of immense planetary transition. So, one of the Alliance's greatest success, according to this revelation, has been the prevention of global catastrophe during a time of escalating instability. And despite the economic turbulence, right, the crash of 2008, 9/11, all of that, and everything that has occurred up until now, the plan DAMIC, you guys know what I mean, geopolitical tensions, cyber warfare, and of course, increasing civil unrest that was orchestrated and financed by, of course, Soros. The world has repeatedly stepped back from the age of total collapse thanks to the efforts of the alliance. Now, all of this because of the alliance, all right, and this positive military function within the global institutions. Thanks to them, all of these threats have been neutralized, right? All of these threats that would have led to a third world war, fake alien invasion using holographic advanced technology, and of course the outbreak of a deadly V that would lead to another plan DEMIC, technological tyranny, or even irreversible societal breakdowns, all that would have led to the cabal's one world centralized government. And none of that happened because of the alliance. Since we are on the topic of outbreaks of possible deadly V plan mix, if you guys know what I mean. The V that originated with that cruise about a week ago. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's all over the airwaves, right? That came from South America, right? From rats, is the cabal's final attempt to, of course, jeopardize the disclosure, throw a monkey wrench in the alliance's plan of world liberation. But I have good news for you guys. The Galactics were very well aware. The Galactic Alliance and the Earth Alliance White Hat networks have countermeasured what would have been another plan, DEMIC. So this rat outbreak that came from South America is not a threat, guys. All right? So don't buy into the fear porn. Please don't. It is contained as I speak, thanks to the Alliance and the Galactics. Nothing is going to prevent what is coming. Okay, nothing is going to prevent what is coming. So, with that having been said, let's continue with this report. So, the Alliance, right, is said to have worked towards preparing humanity psychologically and spiritually for the disclosure, the gradual unveiling of truths that apparently will challenge humanity's understanding of history, consciousness, technology, and even humanity's place within the cosmos. Over the last several years, Galactic Jedis, you guys are very well informed and aware that discussions surrounding unidentified aerial phenomena, advanced aerospace technologies, consciousness research, and even hidden historical narratives have steadily entered mainstream awareness, right? Hence the Great Awakening. And that's been happening since when? Since right around 2016, if you guys remember, right? With the drops, with the 17th letter of the alphabet drops, right? The Great Awakening. Well, it's all coming to a beautiful, positive crescendo as I speak. So topics that were once ridiculed are now openly being discussed across governments, religions, media platforms, and even scientific communities. So for too many, this apparently represents evidence that the old systems of secrecy have been weakening ever since 2016. Now, another major success attributed to the alliance is the protection and preservation of advanced technologies believed to have been hidden from the public for decades. Within these revelations are suppressed breakthroughs involving clean energy systems, advanced propulsion, frequency-based healing modalities, and of course, revolutionary scientific discoveries that could dramatically transform our civilization overnight. The alliance has been safeguarding what remains of these scientists that have been working with these advanced technologies, engineers. I believe it was Amy Eskridge who was the last one to be silenced. Let's just say that. After her, the alliance went in, you could say in protection mode in regards to what remains of these scientists. So the alliance has not only safeguarded what remains of these scientists and these great innovators that are going to be preparing humanity for a future that involves space travel, clean technologies, and of course, free energy, right? So beyond the political and technological dimensions, the alliance is playing a key role in humanity's spiritual awakening. Across the world, millions of people are questioning everything, the old systems. People are beginning to explore consciousness more than ever. In fact, one of the highest ratings right now when it comes to what's being watched on Amazon and Netflix are shows relating to disclosure and consciousness, which is fascinating. And, people are seeking the truth beyond traditional institutions because they are collapsing. And a lot of people are reconnecting with a deeper aspects of themselves. It's all happening right now at an increasing rate. So this awakening has accelerated rapidly within the last few years, fueled by global uncertainty and a growing sense that humanity is approaching a transformational threshold. Now, the Alliance does understand that true freedom cannot come solely through external changes either. Humanity itself must evolve internally, and it's happening, right? Hence the Great Awakening, which means that fear, division, greed, and dependency are seen as the foundation upon which the old systems maintained their power, right? All that has to dissolve, guys. Therefore, the success of the alliance is not measured only through political victories or strategic operations, but through the awakening of the human consciousness itself. And as more individuals begin to reclaim their inner sovereignty, many believe that the influence of fear-based systems also naturally dissolve. Now, another concept that they want me to, again, point out is the concept of the timeline shift as it pertains to those that remain intact into the organic positive ascending earth timeline. And yes, my friends, today is the 11th of May, 2026, and you know it, we're still in a positive timeline trajectory. So, the concept of the timeline shift has also become central to many alliance-oriented records. According to these ideas, humanity is moving through a convergence point in which collective consciousness will determine the future direction of civilization. One path represents deeper technological control, artificial intelligence dominance, transhumanism, and centralized authority. The other represents spiritual evolution, human empowerment, higher awareness, and of course, harmony with natural law. So, from this perspective, the success of the alliance lies in helping humanity move towards the organic timeline rather than the synthetic one. Supporters of this vision, which is all of us, believe that due to the increasing collapse of institutional credibility, let's just be real here, right, is the sign that the old paradigm is losing its grip. And therefore, systems that were once viewed as untouchable are being questioned. Hidden corruption is becoming more visible. Alternative media, right, and independent researchers are now reaching millions. Conversations surrounding consciousness, spirituality, extraterrestrial life, and even advanced technologies are becoming increasingly normalized. And all of this, guys, all of this is leading to what? To everything that has ever been hidden from humans slowly reaching the surface. That's where it's all leading. So whether you guys want to view this as symbolically or spiritually or politically or metaphysically, it's all kind of interrelated, right? You can't separate spirituality from metaphysics. You can't separate metaphysics from extraterrestrial phenomena. You can't separate extraterrestrial phenomena from geopolitical activities. It's all interrelated. And this is the reason why I love doing the Monday night alliance reports based on geopolitical operations that are going on in real time. I like to do my galactic reports on Saturday, right, giving transmissions on what's happening beyond the scope of the Earth. And I like to do my energy ascension updates on Wednesday because it's all a balance. So let's continue here. All of this interconnected changes and subjects, right? It's all interconnected. It all represents the belief that humanity is not doomed to remain trapped in cycles of fear and control forever. The age of the Kali Yuga is now ending, right? Humanity is now standing at the threshold of one of the greatest transformations in human history. And of course, you also have to incorporate the concept of cycles and, you could say cycles and ages, right? Eras, epochs, all of that is factorized in all of this as well. So, in this emerging future or vision of the future, the success of the alliance is ultimately the success of humanity as well. Why is that, though? Think about that for a second. The success of the alliance is ultimately the success of humanity itself. And a lot of that has to do with the restoration of freedom back to the earth. The earth has not been free for over 10,000 years. Let's just be real. The restoration of truth, transparency back to the earth. And most importantly, the restoration of higher consciousness back to the earth. And all of this will lead to the realization that the power to shape the future has always existed within humanity all along. So therefore, guys, the coming era of space travel represents, because this is where all this is leading, right? Us becoming a type 1 civilization. The coming era of space travel, it represents one of the central pillars of this transition. Because throughout modern history, we all know that space exploration has largely remained limited to private government agencies and highly controlled aerospace program, hence the military-industrial program. complex, right? Yet the future that is being envisioned by many researchers and futurists is vastly different. They foresee a civilization where humanity becomes fully spacefaring, no longer confined to the Earth, but operating throughout the solar system and eventually beyond. So, this next stage of human evolution will involve propulsion systems capable of dramatically reducing travel times through advanced electromagnetic gravitics, gravitational, and even quantum based technologies. Some believe that humanity will eventually develop methods of travel that manipulate space time itself rather than relying solely on conventional combustion rockets. Such technologies, and they are real, guys. I'm sure you guys all know that, right? Would completely redefine transportation, energy production, and of course, humanity's relationship with the cosmos. So, the implications of this shift would be enormous. Earth would no longer function as an isolated world, but as a central hub within a much larger interplanetary and potentially interstellar network. Space stations, which already exist, over 100 space stations that were established throughout our solar system by the secret space programs, including lunar bases and settlements on Mars, will become stepping stones towards a civilization integrated with the wider structure of the galaxy. Yet, this transformation is also not viewed purely as technological. Many spiritual traditions argue that humanity must first evolve ethically and consciously before fully entering the cosmic stage. And I believe we have. I believe that we, as volunteer star people on planet Earth, have initiated this mass awakening, this mass acceleration of spiritual evolution. Once again on planet Earth, right? Indicating the end of the Dark Ages. And so, according to this perspective, advanced civilizations are not defined by their machinery, but by their level of consciousness, unity, and harmony with universal laws. So, this is why many believe that the awakening that is happening right now across the earth is inseparable from the future of space travel. Think about that. Humanity is being pushed to evolve inwardly as much as possible right now, right? Along with this disclosure that's going to lead us into becoming a type 1 civilization is congruent to the proportion that humanity is spiritually evolving. It makes perfect sense. So as humanity has been forced to evolve inwardly in the last few years, right? Hence the Great Awakening. At the same time, guys, it involves the releasing of advanced spiritual technologies. And the reason I call them spiritual technologies is because these technologies are technologies that have been inherited by our galactic allies, the Arcturians, which are amazing healers and scientific engineers, the Pleiadians, the Andromedans, the Lyrans, the Syrians. This is the reason why I call them technologies of light. Okay, those are the technologies that are going to be rolled out, and a lot of that has to happen along with the collapsing of the old system, right? You guys already know that, which is forcing individuals to question fear-based structures and rediscover the principles in cooperation, sovereignty, and spiritual alignment. So in this new emerging worldview, the next era of space exploration is not going to be about just colonizing planets, okay? It is going to be about humanity rediscovering its place within a living, interconnected universe. Now, many within disclosure communities also believe that governments and military alliances are quietly preparing for this transition behind the scenes, as revealed earlier in my presentation. So increasing discussion surrounding unidentifying aerial phenomena, advanced aerospace technologies, and classified programs have led to many to suspect that the public is gradually being acclimated to a reality far beyond conventional understanding. While at the same time, private aerospace companies are rapidly transforming what was once considered impossible. Reusable rockets, lunar missions, asteroid mining concepts, and even interplanetary colonization plans are moving from science fiction into active development. And even within mainstream frameworks, humanity is already witnessing the early foundations of a multi-planetary civilization. Now, to many observers, this convergence of spiritual awakening, technological acceleration, and disclosure momentum is not coincidental, right? It represents the merging of two paths that humanity has historically separated, and that is science and consciousness, otherwise known as spirituality, right? It's once again merging as one integrated system of knowledge, science and spirituality. And that merging will be the foundation of this new era. Now, the old world, as you guys know, was built on fragmentation. They separated science from spirituality, right? Humanity separated from nature, nations separated from one another, and Earth separated from the cosmos. The emerging era appears to be dissolving all of those boundaries. And that is the reason why humanity is beginning to realize that consciousness itself plays perhaps the most important role in shaping reality, and that technological advancements without spiritual maturity always become destructive. So now we are achieving what the Atlanteans at the end of their golden age failed to achieve. And this is why the coming years are viewed by many as a pivotal crossroad. Humanity faces two possible futures. One, dominated by fear, control, and artificial systems, disconnected from life. And the other, rooted in expanded consciousness, cooperation, and consciousness evolution. And that's where we are, right? Us, on this podcast. Now, the immense changes unfolding across the planet is ultimately preparing humanity for the greatest leap in its history. And that is the expansion of human consciousness itself. So that means that the next era is not going to just simply change where humanity lives, okay? It's going to redefine what humanity truly is. So there is another part of the Alliance Intelligence Report. Now, this one's coming from Operation United Sovereignty, or it is titled Operation United Sovereignty, Classification Level 7, Earth Alliance Strategic Briefing, the distribution of advanced technologies based on a new global alliance. This is fascinating. You guys are going to love this next piece of information. All right, so Earth Alliance monitoring divisions have confirmed that the geopolitical landscape has also entered a phase of accelerated transformation following coordinated signals originating from major sovereign powers. You guys know where I'm referring to, right? I think I did a report on this, but this is the confirmation here. Intelligence intercepts indicate that high-level negotiations and strategic alignments between Russia, United States, China, and even India now have intensified behind closed doors over this last several years. Now, according to this briefing, recent developments suggest that portions of this coordinated effort are now moving into the public arena through controlled disclosures, symbolic messaging, and even strategic narrative releases designed to prepare the global population for the dismantling of old standing centralized control systems. This emerging operation has internally been identified as Operation United Sovereignty. The objective of this operation is the systematic exposure and neutralization of what alliance intelligence sectors refer to as the deep stage globalist grid, a transnational structure composed of financial cartels, compromised intelligence networks, corporate entities, technocratic influence groups, and unelected policy architects. And again, this is parallel to the disclosure. In order for us to even receive the new technologies, the old guard has to be fully gone. So, this is fascinating, okay? The current situation, according to this update, is that according to recovered intelligence assessments, the old global management system has entered irreversible destabilization. Multiple indicators confirm increasing fractures within the centralized power structure, increasing and that previously, coordinated economic manipulations, media influence operations, engineered conflicts, and population control initiatives across the planet. All of that is coming down. All right. Alliance analysts also reported that the acceleration of these fractures is directly connected to the rising public distrust of institutions, global economic instability, information decentralization, cybernetic warfare escalation, exposure of covert influence networks, and rapid advancement of artificial intelligence systems. So, in addition to that, also increasing civilian awareness of hidden technological programs, which means that the old world order is now losing narrative control at an unprecedented rate. So, this leads to what is known as the Russian disclosure event. The Russian disclosure event. Russia is also getting ready to disclose. In fact, Russia is already starting to disclose. And again, here in America, we don't hear what's happening in Russia, but I will explain. So the Russian disclosure event. Alliance monitoring stations identified a significant escalation after Russian strategic communication divisions began signaling what internal sources describe as the lifting of the curtain. This phrase references the controlled exposure of hidden geopolitical mechanisms that were previously concealed from the public sphere. Russian leadership has increasingly framed current world events not as isolated conflicts between nations, but as a larger struggle between sovereign civilizations and centralized transnational power structures. Alliance intelligence believes that these statements that came from Putin are not random political rhetoric, but part of a synchronized disclosure initiative coordinated with multiple sovereign factions worldwide. Now, key themes emerging from Russian transmissions include the restoration of national sovereignty, resistance to centralized global governance, a multipolar world restructuring, right? That's going to lead to the 22 federated regions that I've been talking about for years, economic independence from global banking systems, protection against technocratic control architectures, and preservation of cultural identity and civilization autonomy. Now, these messages coming from the Russian government aligns with previously intercepted alliance strategic frameworks dating back several years. The emerging sovereign alliance that is now happening between these four countries, India, China, Russia, and America. Thank you for the water. According to what alliance analysts confirm that this quiet geopolitical convergence is being formed between major world powers that were traditionally viewed as adversaries, right? The nations are Russia, China, India, and sovereign functions within the U.S. military and intelligence sectors. Now, while ideological differences still remain significant in terms of these nations, intelligence suggests a temporary strategic alignment has been formed around one shared objective, and that is to prevent the consolidation of a centralized technocratic world system. So that's what they're doing. Their objective is to prevent a consolidation of a centralized technocratic world system. In other words, the alliance is now fighting 100% what would have been a technocratic takeover by AI, a centralized technocratic takeover by AI. So this coalition is reportedly focused on securing national sovereignty for the 209 countries that are aligned with the alliance, dismantling monopolistic global influence networks, restructuring financial systems, reducing dependency on centralized institutions, preventing artificial intelligence domination structures, protecting strategic technological assets, and most importantly, preparing for global disclosure operations worldwide. Now, Alliance data describes the deep state grid as a multi-layered control architecture operating across financial, technological, psychological, and even informational sectors. According to the intelligence reports, the cabal grid, maintained influence through debt-based economic systems. This is how that grid was maintaining its existence. Media narrative control, artificial scarcity models, surveillance infrastructures, cultural division programming, psychological destabilization operations, covert manipulation of political leadership, and black budget technological monopolization. Alliance investigators believe that the grid's greatest weapon was not military power, but perception management. By controlling information flow, the system maintained dependency while preventing populations from recognizing the scale of hidden influence structures operating behind global institutions. So the timeline assessment is this. Alliance future probability analysts warned that humanity has entered a critical convergence window. Two primary trajectory models continue to emerge. Timeline A centralized technocratic control. And again, a lot of this ties into the trifurcation of timelines, which I've been talking about. So you guys know about the centralized technocratic dystopia, right? Timeline B, a sovereign, multipolar civilization, which entails the decentralization, innovation, national independence, technological transparency, restoration of civil liberties, human-centered advancement, and most importantly, cooperative global development between sovereign nations. Alliance Strategic Divisions believes that the current geopolitical struggle represents the collision point between these two future pathways. And the reason they have access to this is because of looking glass technology. Okay, now, we do believe that when we stand united, we win, right? Analysts interpret this symbol as united we stand, together we win, not as a political message, but as a psychological operation designed to shift humanity away from division-based paradigms towards a cooperative resistance against centralized manipulation systems. So the final assessment is this. The Alliance Command concludes that humanity has entered the early stages of a planetary restructuring event that will redefine the future of civilizations for generations to come. The old system is weakening. The battle is no longer nation against nation. The conflict is increasingly becoming between sovereignty versus centralized control, freedom versus dependency, human consciousness versus artificial manipulation. Okay? That's what it's coming down to. The outcome of this transition at the trifurcation of timelines will determine if whether humanity enters an era of sovereign innovation and expanded awareness or descends further into technological enforced control systems. The choice is yours. The timelines are beginning to split. Global populations are advised to remain aware, adaptable, and mentally resilient as disclosure operations continue accelerating worldwide. End of transmission. Earth Alliance Command. Clearance level 7. All right, there we go. Full transmission, guys. I think we are definitely very blessed to be living in a time like this, right? As opposed to even 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 200 years ago. Yeah, this is unprecedented times. Definitely they are. I am super excited. I do want to welcome all 3,200 people that are in the house. Thank you guys so much for being here once again. I do want to give some shout outs before I open it up for Q&A. And again, if you guys really enjoyed this Alliance report, do me a favor, keep sharing my updates with as many people as possible, even if it means planting the seeds so that we could speed up this spiritual awakening. I do want to extend gratitude also to my moderators for squashing those trolls. Thank you guys so much for being here and doing so. I also wanted to give thanks to Edward Wusick for his donation. Susan K for her donation. Thank you so much. And let's see, anything else before I open up for Q&A? Let's see. No, I think that's it. I think I could open it up for Q&A now. So I do want to give a few shout outs. I see that Lucy Nomad is in the house, Starlight, William Ryan. Thank you so much for the super chat. Holy Ship, thank you so much. I see Stephanie Garcia. Who else is here? 3,100 people are in the house, but I do want to give some personal shout outs. Marlene, Bruce, I'm trying to shout out to people that I've never shouted out before to. So I'm looking for new people, perhaps some new subscribers. Talking about subscribers, I think I'm being shadow banned. So if you guys could always check to make sure you're subscribed and also make sure that your notifications are on so that way you guys are always aware of when I'm going live, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you ahead of time. Jill Hunt, Cocktail Curtis is in the house. And last but not least, Brother Hawk is in the house. And one more person. Alien Winning is in the house. What's up, Alien Winning? That's so cool. Christopher Brandon is in the house. All right, one more person. Jody Crocker in the house. All right, cool. Let's open it up for Q&A. Don't forget to type your questions in capital letters. All right, so first super chat, Daniel Davenport. Thank you so much. Second super chat is from the Slodini. Such synchronicities. When you mentioned July, actually had a dream about July. No exact date, but it felt like it was going to be a huge event. Thank you, brother, for everything you do. Much love. I am so glad you pointed that out because a lot of us are starting to have prophetic dreams. So please pay attention to your prophetic dreams. right? And I almost forgot to mention, I am the author of The Secret Government, Invisible Architects, as well as Our Cosmic Origin, both which are books that are vital, restoring vital information for these amazing times that we're living in. And they are both available through Amazon for all my new subscribers. I am an author of those two amazing books. And yeah, just wanted to throw that out there for those of you that are curious. All right, next question. I do appreciate the super chats. Thank you guys so much. They come a long way. All right, next question is coming from Nathan Taylor. Thank you, Nathan Taylor. What could the ET want from us? I heard they want to business with what could we offer other than our DNA? They have advanced tech. Well, first of all, we have to distinguish between the different categories of extraterrestrials. You have your negative factions, right? Those are the ones that want our DNA, right? Those are the ones that establish those treatises with shadow governments. Those are the ones that have been working with the negative secret space program, right? Giving the shadow government technology for the exchange of our genetics. But then you have the allies of humanity, which is what I refer to as the Galactic Alliance. The Galactic Alliance, all they want is for our sovereignty. All they want is for our remembrance and for us to become part of a greater interstellar galactic community. So that's what they want from us, okay? And since the negative ETs are no longer allowed in our solar system or planet, we don't have to worry about them anymore. In fact, the reason things are accelerating at the rate that they are, Galactic Jedis, is because a lot of those ETs were taken out in the last few years. Okay, a lot of these ETs that were still running the shadow government, with the exception, of course, of some Anunnaki remnants, which I revealed, right, where they were, most of the ETs have been exiled or excommunicato. All right, let's continue here. Can you do a live about Christ coming, convergence with science and galactic info? Sure, I could probably do that on my Wednesday night Ascension updates. That sounds like a good subject for Ascension updates. The second sun, dark days. Oh, I did do a live about the second sun, the coming of Nibiru, the 3 days of darkness. So if you actually watch my presentation from last Wednesday, right, it's here on my channel. I did do a live on the 3 days of darkness. So, but again, I will continue giving you guys more updates regarding energy and ascension updates every Wednesday evening. And then on every Saturday evening, I will give you guys galactic transmissions. All right, next question. I do want to thank Teresa Max Childs for her super chat. Thank you, sister. All right, now I'm just going to take, two more super chats, and then I'll take random questions from the chat. This is coming from Jennifer Schulz. She says she's from, she loves from Asheville, North Carolina, restoring ley lines or other levels and anchoring frequencies and harmonics and light. Thanks for all you do, Ishmael. And thank you for all you do, Jennifer. Thank you for sharing that with us, sister. All right, next question is coming from Jamie-G7R. What's up, Jamie? She says, why should we believe you on disclosure when last time you said that they were giving 180 days deadline, but this never happened? I do believe, but also have some doubt. I appreciate your work, but I also have to ask. I do understand the frustration, but due to this timeline temporal war that I've been talking about, right, a timeline war between good guys and bad guys taking place from the future, things always tend to fluctuate, right? As we do live in a multiverse, multiple parallel Earth realities, each one slightly different from the other. So the good news is that the White Hats, or the Triple Temporal Alliance, the alliance, were able to counteract all the negative timelines, only allowing for the positive timeline to happen, of course, with the exception of the technocratic dystopia, but that will be dealt with at the end of the millennium. But in the meantime, the technocratic dystopia will be existing on a separate trajectory than the positive ascending timeline. Now, if you guys could excuse me, I do have to blow my nose. I'll be right back in a minute. Right, I am back. I am back. All right, so where were we? We are, wow. Thank you guys so much for all the super chats. I feel so blessed today. All right, so I think I've already answered that. Yes, I did. Did I answer this one? Yes, I did. All right, next is coming from Divine Mage. Thank you so much for your super chat. Did Enlil really test Abraham by asking him to sacrifice his son, as the Bible says? I think that was more of a metaphor, but Enlil was the Old Testament God of the true Hebrews, the original people of the ancient world. Okay, not the fake Jews of today. I always want to make that clarification. You guys have to understand that a lot of those metaphors in the Bible, excuse me, were a lot of those stories were metaphors. Okay, or metaphors. Sorry, I forgot about the sound. Okay, I guess I have to repeat everything I said. All right, so Teresa, thank you so much for the super chat. John Hansen, thank you so much for the super chat. And of course, Jennifer Scholes, thank you so much for the super chat. From Asheville, oh no, where is that other super chat that I just read? Oh boy. All right, I'm bringing.
That's an important question about, do you think that the data centers being built are bad?
Oh yeah, of course. All those AI data centers are part of the technocratic timeline, but we don't have to worry about that because we're going to be going to the other timeline. All right, thank you so much, Elaine, for your super chat. Ishmael, maybe you can help me. Have things been delayed? Do you think there will be some sort of scare event before the 3rd of July? Well, I hope not. And as far as I am concerned, I don't think things are going to be further delayed because now there is a deadline. Okay? Now there is a deadline. All right. So one of the Galactic Jedi's was saying that she had a dream that there was a revaluation of money. Right. We entered a decentralized financial era where everybody had abundance. And she was saying that my mailbox would be full of stuff. And I said, well, at that point, once we enter this new world and I'm fully activated, I will retire from broadcasting from writing and teaching. And at that point, I am just going to live on top of a mountain. And with my newfound abilities, as I activate my dormant DNA, I will be one of the watchers, monitoring and protecting the earth from high up on a mountain. And I will do that for the millennium. So that's what I'm going to be doing after the ascension. I will just retire and become one of the guardians, right? With, of course, a lot of you who are going to be helping me. So it's going to be fun and exciting. And not to mention, I'm also going to be in charge of the new planetary educational system, restoring cosmic knowledge back to the earth. So I'm going to be helping with that. And I can't wait, guys. It's going to be such a better world. All right. I am just amazed as to how many super chats I am receiving today. I feel like it's my birthday. Thank you guys so much. This is another super chat from Tele Van. When we ascend to 5D, do we have to give away our assets from 3D? Well, if you go to 5D or above, you won't need assets. You're going to be using your internal technology, the light body. So therefore, you'll be able to materialize and manifest anything you want. And are we able to come back to our house, or will it just stay vacant? No. Everything's going to change, including physical matter as we know it. So you will be able to pop into the 4D neutral middle timeline when you want at will, and then kind of go back to the other, the higher dimensions at will. So that you will be able to do. You will be able to pop in and out of fourth dimensional Earth at will. All right. Deborah Nodelman, thank you so much. She says, haven't we reached the point of the EBS and ascension, which begins the mass disclosure? Doesn't the Alliance want the disclosure to occur ASAP so the galactics don't have to force disclosure? Yes, that is the goal. That is the goal of the Alliance. But there are still that 5% element that is still trying to do whatever they can to prevent it, right, within the deep state. So right now, as revealed earlier in my presentation, we are at 95% cabal containment, right? In other words, the cabal is only hanging by 5%. So, and that 5% is probably not going to last very long. Let's continue. All right, no more super chats, random questions. I'm just going to pick random questions, all right? I don't favor anyone, just whatever question seems like. If it's a type of question that most people want to know about, then I will take that question. All right, who are the etheric tall beings that have halos? They come to me 2 to 3 times a week for about 6 months. The grand finale was when they plugged my solar plexus into a huge light team. Okay, so tall beings, etheric tall beings with halos, are considered celestials. They come from dimensions 7, 8, and 9. So they also correspond to what the Bible calls the angelics. That's what they are. Good question. Nathan Taylor, thank you so much for your super chat. Are we going into another I can't say that word. MIC? No, as mentioned earlier, that was the cabal's last attempt to throw another monkey wrench and, of course, implement another worldwide plan, DEMIC. However, the Alliance is not going to allow that. So eventually I call it the VAT, not the VAT, the RAT V. The RAT V is going to die out, all right? I don't want to say the name here. You guys know what I mean, right? So the RAT V will die out eventually. It's not going to be another repeat of 2019. No, none of that, okay? So don't fear, all right? Don't buy into the porn fear. Doomsdayers, whatever you want to call them. All right, let's continue here. So many super chats. And I do have to answer the super chats. Sorry, everyone else. It's not giving me a super chats, but I do have to take the super chats because people are donating. So I'm going to go ahead and do that as they keep coming. But as they stop coming, I will go back to just taking random questions. All right, this is coming from Kata Marantz. Thank you so much, sister. Hi, Ishmael, everyone. I know everyone is suffering in every way. We keep hearing that things will change for the better, but nothing changes. Why can't they just release some of the wealth seized from the cabal? Again, a lot of this has to do with honoring the ending of cycles, right at the demarcation point, and a lot of this has to do in direct proportion to humanity's spiritual awakening, right? Because we don't want to repeat what happened in Atlantis, right? This time, spirituality has to surpass technological development on a mass scale. So there are all these factors. And again, the third factor is the temporal timeline wars that are constantly fluctuating, things moving, shuffling things around from this month to this year to that year. But again, the good news is that on every probable future reality, we canceled out everything, including the fake alien invasion. And now that fake alien invasion was supposed to be a big thing. I believe that was their final card, right? Project Bluebeam, canceled. All right, let's continue. All right, next super chat is coming from Echo Dan. How's it going, Echo Dan? He says, I have had the number 13 4 times this last weekend. Is there a meaning here? Yeah. First of all, according to all metaphysical and spiritual records, the number 13 is the most significant spiritual numerical number in the entire esoteric framework. And the reason being because it has a lot to do with the hidden one, right? The 12 going around the center, right? It also has to do with the restoration of the divine feminine, right? Ophiuchus, the central sun, the 13th, the hidden one. The 13th also signifies completion, perfect balance. And most importantly, Earth, and I believe I've talked about this before, will be the germinating seed that is going to kick off the 13th creation, as we are well within the completion and finishing of the 12th creation. So, the number 13 is significant for multiple reasons. Good question. All right, random questions now. Thank you so much, Stephen Peter, for your donation. Well received. Thank you so much, Margarita E, for your donation, and Loretta Addix for your donation as well. Oh, and by the way, just as a quick reminder, I know I don't have a Patreon and I don't have a subscription, not even on my website, right? So for those that want to support my cause, for those that are capable, of course, I do have a Zelle, not PayPal. I do have a Zelle through my email, projectrestorationzion@gmail.com. So through that email, I could receive Zelle donations for those that are interested in helping my cause, supporting my work. No obligation, just out of your own free will and the kindness of your heart. That would be greatly appreciated. And I just wanted to throw that out there because, I don't believe in having a Patreon. I don't believe in charging for subscriptions, and I don't believe in charging for websites. I think, people that do that, I don't know, maybe that's just their way of living, but I like to keep everything free other than my classes because that's how I live, is through my classes. But, again, I do appreciate donations. They do help. All right, let's continue here. All right, let's see. Thank you, Starcadian, for posting my Zelle, projectrestorationzion@gmail.com. Oh, and I also have a mailing address. It's 1771 West State Route 89A, Unit B, box number 3015, Sedona, Arizona, 86336, I believe. So that's my public mailing box for those of you guys that want to send me letters or anything. All right, let's continue here. Nathan Taylor, thank you so much for your super chat. Can you talk about the number 11? Today is my birthday. Well, happy birthday, Nathan Taylor. 11. You know, I am not much of a, I don't really know the significance of every number. I believe Tom Numbers is a specialist in that. So I don't really know what 11 means. If anybody here in the chat knows what 11 means, please drop it in the chat for our birthday boy, Nathan Taylor, who wants to know what 11 stands for. That would be great because he was born today on the 11th. Happy birthday again. So, yeah, I don't really study gematria, numerology. I'm sorry, that's just not my forte, right? So, if anybody could drop it in the comments or in the chat, please let him know what the significance of 11 is, for I do not have an answer to that question. All right, let's continue. Teresa Max, chemtrails in Idaho, are they bad still? Oh, okay. I'm glad you brought that up, Teresa, because I was informed by Commander Valiant Thor that some of these things that we think are chemtrails. All right. So what happens is every time the deep state, right, is throwing out a chemtrail, immediately the alliance undoes it. They completely neutralize it, whatever you want to call it, right? They contain it so it doesn't disperse into the atmosphere. So this has been going on for the last 2 months. They wanted me to share that with you. So some of these planes that are flying are actually dispersing the antidote for the chemtrails. So they are alliance planes that are releasing the antidote that is supposed to completely dissolve the nanotech of the chemtrail. So I just wanted to throw that out there. All right. Not all those airplanes are bad now. Some of them are, again, they're implementing countermeasures against the poisons that they are, trying to spread throughout the sky. Good question, though. All right, let me continue here. Next super chat from WizWorld. Thank you so much. How is being in 5D going to happen? Are we just going to wake up one day and everything has changed? Or is it going to happen gradually? That is a very good question. Also, when is the deadline? All right, the deadline is November. All right, that is the deadline. So if the governments of this world fail to comply with full disclosure, sometime at the end of this year, guys, we are scheduled to witness massive sightings worldwide in every continent, over every nation, every major city. Now, how are they going to try to explain all of that? But again, this is only going to happen. These are countermeasures that have been developed or designed by the Galactic Alliance in the event that the world governments fail to comply. All right, let's continue. And first part of your question. Okay, so how is going to the 5D happening? Again, there is going to be a period of stasis, right? Where everything's going to kind of be resting for 3 days, all living life on Earth. And this is called the 3 days of darkness. And I believe I covered that last week. So when that happens, when you wake up after the third day, you're going to be a multidimensional being, right? Your body's going to be upgraded. All of a sudden, if you are, say, over 50, you're going to regress to looking 30. And most importantly, you're going to have amazing abilities. So that is something to look forward to. Now, there are some sources, or people rather, that claim that it's going to happen instantaneously, right? We're going to be upgraded. We're going to be shifting within a blink of an eye, right? As we translate into the positive organic timeline. And we're going to be translating into, or transfiguring, our body's going to go through some sort of transformation into galactic avatars, right? The upgrades. So some people believe it's going to happen that way. And then we're going to need 3 days of rest to acclimate to the new biological upgrade. So, I guess we're all going to find out, right? All right, let's continue. I do have sound, right? Okay, I just want to make sure. All right, final question as we have approached the 90-minute mark. Final question. Again, don't forget to watch this from the beginning. For those of you that just popped in the last 30 minutes, I gave a thorough explanation of the deadline, the faces, and of course, what's been happening from behind the scenes in terms of this emerging new global alliance that is going to lead into the 22 federated regions. So, final question. Let's see. All right. The last question. Hi, Ishmael. This is Laura. Will we ever get to see Jesus Christ face to face? That is a very good question. And I believe that we all will, especially if we go into the organic positive timeline. And, a lot of it has to do with the realization that you are the Christ. So when you begin to cultivate that, you will begin to see the Christ in the mirror. When you look in the mirror, right, as you are cultivating the I am that I am within you, then you will be seeing the Christ in the mirror. See, most people think that the Christ is an external personality or it's an external being. No, 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 no. The Christ is you, right? Once you realize it and cultivate it, you look in the mirror, then you will begin to see the Christ. All right, with that having been said, I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation, and I will see you guys on Wednesday night for an Ascension update. May the God force be with you all.